The evening had started off perfectly. My partner and I had planned a quiet night in, away from the noise and distractions of the world. We'd been together for a while by then, long enough to know each other's quirks and habits, but not so long that the newness had completely faded. It was a comfortable stage of our relationship, where we could enjoy each other's company without feeling the need to impress. We had ordered takeout, watched a movie, and slowly, the night had evolved into something more intimate. Everything felt right. The mood, the energy between us. It was one of those nights where connection flowed naturally. In the heat of the moment, when all the barriers between us seemed to dissolve, I felt a sense of closeness, as though nothing could break the bond we had. But then, in a split second, I shattered that illusion with one word. I don't know why I said it. To this day, I can't explain the chain of thoughts that led to that moment. As I was caught up in the passion of the moment, without thinking, I called out a name, the wrong name. It wasn't even the name of an ex, which would have been bad enough. No, it was the name of a coworker. A completely random, irrelevant coworker who, as far as I was concerned, had nothing to do with my life outside of the office. The second the name left my lips, I knew I had messed up. I felt my body tense and time seemed to stop. My partner froze too, their entire body going still, and in the silence that followed, I could practically hear the gears turning in their head. They pulled back, confusion clouding their face, and for a moment, neither of us said anything. I could see the questions forming in their mind, questions I wasn't sure how to answer. My heart sank as the full weight of what I'd just done hit me. How do you explain calling out someone else's name in a moment like that? It was such a careless, thoughtless slip of the tongue, but no amount of regret could take it back. I tried to speak, but the words stuck in my throat. What could I even say? Sorry, didn't seem like enough, and any explanation I could offer felt flimsy at best. Eventually, I managed to blurt out, "It's just a slip, I swear." I tried to explain that it meant nothing, that the name had no significance, but the more I talked, the more awkward it became. My partner didn't say anything, just stared at me, clearly trying to process what had just happened. I could see the confusion, the hurt, and even a little bit of suspicion in their eyes. And I couldn't blame them. In a situation like this, trust is fragile, and I had just smashed it with one careless mistake. The rest of the night was a blur of awkward silences and failed attempts to salvage the situation. We tried to carry on, but the mood was ruined. The connection we'd shared earlier felt distant, and I could sense my partner pulling away, both physically and emotionally. I hated myself in that moment, hated that I had allowed such a stupid mistake to ruin what had been a perfect night. We lay there for a while in silence, the tension in the room palpable. I kept replaying the moment in my head, wondering why on earth I had said that name. It wasn't as if I had any particular feelings toward my coworker. Our relationship was strictly professional. I couldn't even recall the last time I had thought about them outside of work. And yet, in the heat of the moment, their name had slipped out as if it had been lurking just beneath the surface of my subconscious, waiting for the worst possible time to make an appearance. My partner eventually broke the silence, their voice low and measured. They weren't angry exactly, but I could tell they were hurt. They asked me if there was something I wasn't telling them, if there was a reason I had said that name. I wanted to assure them that there wasn't, that it had been nothing more than a bizarre brain glitch, but I could see how difficult that was to believe. Trust, once shaken, is hard to rebuild, and I had just introduced doubt into a space that had once been filled with certainty. The night ended on a strained note. We didn't fight, but we didn't talk much either. I could tell my partner needed space to process what had happened, and I needed time to figure out how to fix the damage I had caused. The next few days were awkward, to say the least. There were long stretches of silence between us, punctuated by the occasional forced conversation. I could feel the tension lingering, like a cloud hanging over us, and I wasn't sure how to dispel it. At work, I found myself hyper-aware of the coworker whose name I had inexplicably called out. Every time I saw them, I felt a rush of embarrassment and guilt, even though they had no idea what had happened. I kept my distance, not wanting to give my partner any more reasons to doubt me, but the whole situation felt surreal. How had one random name, uttered in the wrong moment, turned my relationship upside down? In the days that followed, I made several attempts to address what had happened. I sat my partner down and explained, as best as I could, that the name had meant nothing. It was just a strange, meaningless slip, and I couldn't understand why it had happened. I reassured them that there was no deeper issue at play, no hidden feelings or unspoken truths. But rebuilding trust is never easy, especially when the mistake is as personal and intimate as this. We had a lot of conversations in those few days, some of them difficult, others more lighthearted as we tried to navigate the awkwardness together. I could tell my partner wanted to believe me, but I also knew that a part of them was struggling to shake off the doubt. It's hard to hear someone you love call out someone else's name, even if it's just a random slip of the tongue. That doubt, once planted, takes time to fade. Over time, though, we began to move past it. Slowly but surely, the awkward silences became less frequent, and the tension that had hung between us started to dissipate. My partner stopped asking me about the coworker, and I stopped feeling like I was walking on eggshells around them. We got back into our normal rhythm, the routines and habits that had always brought us comfort. But there was still an unspoken understanding between us, that we had weathered a storm, and while we had come out the other side, things had changed, even if just a little. It took time, but eventually we reached a place where we could laugh about it. Not in a flippant way, but in the way that people do when they've been through something awkward and come out stronger for it. We'd joke about my random brain blip, and how my coworker had somehow become an unwitting participant in our relationship drama. My partner would tease me, saying I should be more careful about who I was thinking of in the heat of the moment, and I'd laugh, knowing that we had made it through one of those uncomfortable bumps that every relationship faces at some point. In the end, the mistake became just that, a mistake. A small, strange hiccup in the larger picture of our relationship. It didn't define us, and it didn't break us, though it could have. It taught me, in a very real way, just how fragile trust can be, and how important it is to nurture it, even in the smallest moments. I never did figure out why I called out that particular name, and maybe I never will. But I do know that relationships are built on more than just words spoken in the heat of the moment. They're built on the ways you handle the unexpected, the awkward, and the uncomfortable. And if you can navigate those moments with honesty, vulnerability, and a little bit of humor, you'll find that even the worst slip-ups can be forgiven, and even laughed about, eventually.